Hello, good to be with you today for our daily reflection.
From the YouVersion app.
Yep.
Verse of the day.
Yep, that's it. Ephesians 4, verse 2. Be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love.
Yeah, good. Good.
That's a big thing, isn't it?
It is a very big thing.
And it's not, they're not qualities that really people focus on a lot today.
No, but they're really
Being humble
really
and gentle.
Yeah. And the context is Ephesians, isn't it?
It is Ephesians, and it is Paul, and he is talking to the church in Ephesus. And he's a prisoner. He starts off as a prisoner for the Lord then. That's in verse 1.
Live a life worthy of the calling you have received. So the first half of Ephesians, the first 3 chapters as we know it.
You know Ephesians very well. Let's just say this.
Yeah, so Paul is talking about the marvellous things that God has done for us in Jesus and how important and critical and how revolutionary and life-changing and world-changing it is. And then in the second half he says, well, therefore, if God's done all this thing of reconciling us to God, God has reconciled us to himself, he's done all these wonderful things in Jesus, how do we live now? And then he says,
Ephesians 4,
live a life worthy of the calling, and it is
received. Being completely humble and gentle and being patient.
We would think that if God's magnificent work was so wonderful and earth-shattering, then wouldn't it have bigger implication than that? And yet Paul...
It's just the quiet little voice underneath everything else.
Paul hones down to the nitty-gritty of it all. And it's about getting on with each other and loving each other, which reflects what Jesus said was the greatest commandment anyhow. And so therefore... we can easily skip into thinking it's about getting the right understanding of the Bible. It's about getting the verses right, getting our theology right, getting our worship right,
following all the rules and doing all the things that it says. And
so many things. And
it's such a human response, isn't it? We want to get it right. We want to do the right thing.
And Paul says, no, just be humble. Just be gentle.
Be gentle.
Just get on with each other.
Be patient with one another.
That's right.
Love one another as they are.
And... isn't that an important thing for us as a church to hear? It's important for us in our relationship. That's really critical.
Our relationship with our children.
That's right.
Our friends, the people we work with, ourselves, all those things.
It's one of the big things in all the letters in the New Testament that every one of them focuses on unity and getting on with each other. And sadly, so many of our churches are bitter, fighting, clashing with each other, church splits and all the rest of it, and we actually ignore the heart of what the New Testament is on about.
Which says that those were the things that were inherent in the church to start off with, that so much of it needed to be reminded to those people. It was already there, and it just says how human it is for those things to happen, and how we have to consciously choose things like humility and patience and gentleness and forgiveness of one another, just to survive and to be a really good representation of who Jesus is.
I think it was last week I talked about me getting on with the senior pastor of the church that we're a part of at a particular point in time, and asking God, why am I taking so much of my time just being in right relationship with this pastor? And God said, that's the job. That is the job. And
that's the thing.
That is the thing. And we so easily forget it in the context of the church. And but Paul, in all his letters, in some shape or form, comes back to the fact that you need to get on with each other. This is the heart of it all. It's the greatest commandment. And
it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to do. That's why you need to keep on reminding each other. That's why you encourage one another. And that's why you get together so that you can remind each other, relationship's good, community is good, being together is good.
Yeah. And probably the person that rubs you up the most, who annoys you, who frustrates you, who gets on your nerves, it may be God's greatest gift to you. Because that's the person.
Please explain.
Well, that's where those things in you are rising to the surface. Your anger, your frustration, your crossness. And God is saying, hey, you need to be gentle. You need to be forgiving. You need to be loving. So this person is a gift to you to enable me to rub all those rough edges off you and polish you so that you can be like a diamond. It's a bit counterintuitive. It is counterintuitive, isn't it? But the church needs to model it to the world. Doesn't our world today need models of how we get on with each other when we disagree with each other. That
Definitely.
is the heart.
Well, not just the church today. The world today needs
The world needs the church
to be doing it.
to model it.
Yeah.
In social media, in everything. We need to be the best at this. Sometimes we're the worst, which is really sad.
We'll leave those thoughts with you for today.
Bye.
Catch up.